All right, if you're deep in PMP study mode, you know this feeling all too well. You hit one of those tricky scenario questions, you read the four options, and you just freeze. Well, today we are going to crack the code on those questions. Let's dive in.
You've seen this a million times in your practice exams, right? That dreaded scenario question that asks what the project manager should do first, or maybe next, or what the very best action is. You know, it's not really there to trick you. It's designed to test your real-world judgment.
And that little voice in your head just screams, wait a minute, these all sound right. How am I supposed to pick just one? Look, if you've ever felt that, you are in good company. This is probably the single biggest hurdle for most people studying for the PMP. But what if I told you there's a way to see the right answer almost every single time?
Well, here's the secret, the thing that changes everything. The PMP exam isn't really a test of how many ITTOs you can cram into your brain. No, it's a test of whether you can think like a project manager, the way PMI wants you to think. And once you make this mindset shift, I promise you, it all starts to click. This isn't just about passing an exam, it's about learning the way of thinking that really makes a great PM.
So here's our game plan for this explainer. We're going to look at that PMP question trap, we'll nail down the essential mindset shift, and then we'll see how it works in predictive, agile, and hybrid projects. And then at the very end, I'm going to give you a super powerful checklist to use on every single question.
So what is this mindset shift really? Well, it all starts with understanding that the exam isn't trying to be mean. It's trying to figure out just one thing. How's your judgment? It wants to know if you can follow a logical, professional process instead of just, reacting and putting out fires as they pop up.
Okay, so when you see a question that asks, what should you do first? This is a trap for the impatient. The exam is testing to see if your first instinct is to take a breath and assess the situation before you jump into action. The PMI mindset always prioritizes calm analysis over a knee-jerk reaction.
And then there's its cousin. What should you do next? This isn't about your first instinct, it's about knowing the logical flow. After you've done your initial assessment or handled the immediate issue, what's the proper, structured follow-up? It's all about knowing the correct sequence of events.
And the big one, what is the best action? This is where they're really testing your alignment with the whole PMI philosophy. They want to see if you'll pick the answer that reflects their core values, things like being a servant leader, communicating clearly, and making decisions with your team, not just for them.
All right, let's put this new mindset to the test. First up, the predictive approach. You might know it as waterfall. When you see this, I want you to think structure, sequence, and everything driven by the plan.
So when you're in a predictive world, think of the project plan as your guide. The principles here are dead simple. You follow the plan. You analyze absolutely everything before you act. And you document it all. Seriously, every single action needs a paper trail. That's the heart of the structured approach.
Let's walk through a super common scenario. A stakeholder comes to you and asks for a small change. What's your first move? It's not to do it. Your first move is to assess. You review the plan and see how this change hits your scope, your budget, your schedule. Then you document it in a formal change request. Then you submit it to the change control board. And finally, you communicate whatever their decision is. See that? Assess, document, submit, communicate. It's a machine. It's predictable. So let's boil it down for predictive questions. Your first move, it's almost always going to be about looking before you leap. Assessing, analyzing, reviewing the plan. The next action, that's about execution. That's when you communicate the decision, update your documents, and actually do the work.
Okay, now I want you to take that entire structured mindset and just flip it on its head. Welcome to the world of Agile. The whole rhythm here is different. We're all about being flexible, working together, and just focusing on delivering value.
See, in Agile, change isn't the enemy. It's expected. It's just part of the game. The whole point is to deliver value to the customer quickly and often, to collaborate nonstop with your team and the product owner, and, this part is absolutely critical, to protect the current sprint from any and all disruptions. All right, another classic situation. You're mid-sprint, everything's humming along, and a stakeholder pops up with a great new idea. So what do? First, you don't just say no, and you definitely don't stop the presses. You capture their request, you add it to the product backlog, and then you collaborate with the product owner to figure out where it fits in a future sprint. So, the Agile cheat sheet looks like this. First actions are all about talking, listening, and collaborating. You communicate with the stakeholder, you capture their idea, you work with the product owner. Next actions, that's all about alignment and adjustment. You work with the team, you tweak the backlog. You see the pattern? You never act alone.
Okay, so we've got the super structured, predictive, and the super flexible, agile. But what happens when they have a baby? Well, you get hybrid. And just like the name says, it's all about blending these two and using the best tool for the job.
And the rules for thinking in hybrid are actually pretty intuitive. You're basically a DJ, mixing the best of both tracks. You use the predictive, plan-driven stuff for the parts of your project where risk is high or you've got heavy compliance rules. And you use agile where you need to be innovative and flexible. But notice that one common thread: no matter what, you always assess impacts and talk to your stakeholders first. All right, we've broken down all the mindsets. Now I want to give you the one tool that brings it all together. This is something you can use on every single question you face on the exam. Let's call it your pre-answer checklist.
So from now on, before you even think about clicking an answer on the exam, I want you to just pause. Take a second and run through a few simple questions in your head. This is what's going to force you into that correct PMI mindset every time.
This is it. This is your secret weapon. Before you commit, run through these 5 things. First, ask yourself, did I assess the situation before I tried to act? Number 2, did I communicate with the right people before trying to execute anything? 3, does this choice follow a logical professional sequence? 4, and this one is huge, what world am I in? Is this a predictive scenario where I follow the plan, or is it an agile one where I embrace change? And finally, the most important one of all, does my choice actually protect my stakeholders and help us get to the project goal? I'm telling you, running through these 5 questions will become your key to consistently finding the right answer.
And you know what's cool? When you start doing this, when you make this checklist a habit, the entire exam changes. It stops feeling like a bunch of trick questions that are designed to make you fail. Instead, it starts feeling like a professional conversation, a conversation that you already know how to have.
So that's the real question, isn't it? Are you ready to stop just memorizing terms and actually start thinking like a PMI certified project manager? Because with this mindset, you're not just getting ready to pass a test, you're getting ready to go out there and lead projects successfully. You got this.